This movie begins with Wade, a family man with a promising future. That day, Wade receives a letter notifying him that his loan was approved. He will be able to hire 4 people in his business. He will divide them into teams. This year, he will earn $30,000. Laura tells him that she is very proud of him. He built an entire business on his own, to which her husband tells her she is wrong. Both of them were the ones who made it happen. In the early hours of the morning, the couple notice that there is an intruder in the house. He grabs a bat and they head to the child's room. Wade asks them to stay in the room. He tries to look for the intruder, but the man surprises him from behind. He chases him outside the house, and when he sees him put his hands in his pocket, our protagonist hits him with the bat, taking his life by accident. After the police inspect the body, they inform him that the intruder did not have any weapon. He had his wallet in his hand. Porter tells him he thought he had a gun. He asked him to stop, but the man kept running. The officer tells him that if he had been inside the house when the incident happened, they could make a case for self-defense. The problem is that once he left his property, he was no longer a threat. Even so, he chased him with a bat and ended his life. They will have to arrest him for homicide. Laura jumps in his defense, telling them that the man was in their son's room. If he had been armed, the intruder could have killed him, to which the officer responds that he should have stayed inside. The intruder no longer posed a threat. Instead of going out to look for him, they should have called the authorities. Once in the county jail, one of the inmates gets angry with our protagonist for looking at him sideways. Although they give him a couple of punches, Wade manages to neutralize him. When they take him to his cell, his companions ask if he will cause problems. Porter answers that he will not, to which Lee tells him that he will have to take care of cleaning the bathroom every Wednesday and Thursday. He has to keep his belongings in a safe place. The next morning, Laura visits him to tell him that their son always asks about him. She tells him that he went on a trip. She takes him to her mother's house to distract him, but he always thinks of his father. She does not feel safe being alone in the house. Wade tells her that everything will be fine. He will be given a public defender. He will do everything possible to return to them. Once in the Central Indictment Court, his lawyer informs him that the judge will charge him with murder and set bail at $1 million. If he does not have the money, he could ask one of his parents or any other person as a guarantor. Wade tells her that he does not have that amount of money. His parents died 9 years ago. Meanwhile, in San Quentin State Prison, we see the prisoners rioting to demand justice. When the guards manage to take control, they ask the prison leader why they caused the riot. John tells them it is because of his son. Yesterday, he would have turned 27 years old. Gordon tells him that he must forget the past. He asks to be transferred so that he can start over. He just has to behave well after that. He will not do him any more favors. Some time later, his lawyer informs him that the prosecutor understood his situation with what happened with the intruder. He agreed to reduce his sentence if he decides not to contest his immediate imprisonment. If he declares no contest in his case, they will reduce the charges to involuntary manslaughter. He will get 3 years in prison. If he behaves well, he will only serve half the time. He has already served 95 days of his sentence. He will be released in less than 15 months. Since he has no other option, our protagonist ends up accepting the conditions. The 97 days he spent in the county jail will be credited to his total sentence, as it is his first offense, and he accepted the conditions. The judge sentences him to 3 years in state prison. While on the way to the prison, one of the inmates asks if he knows the man in front of him. It turns out he is part of a dangerous gang called the Aryan Brotherhood. He should be locked up in a bay security unit, but the man is a genius. The police cannot touch him. Since the county prison inmate does not stop looking at him, Derek asks him if he had a problem with him, to which Wade tells him they fought in jail. Derek tells him that he will always have problems. He must join a gang. It will help him in case he gets into a fight. At that moment, Danny stabs his partner several times. He gives the weapon to Derek and sits as if nothing had happened. When the officers stop the vehicle, Derek throws the weapon under Wade's seat. If he dares to say anything, Danny will end his life. When they find the weapon, our protagonist is sent to solitary confinement. The guards know he was not the one who stabbed the inmate. He just has to tell them who is responsible. Wade tells them that the weapon was in his seat. Someone must have slid it on the floor. The sergeant tells him that they know it was Danny Sampson. He just has to admit it. Lieutenant Jackson tells him that Danny is a cold-blooded killer who does not care about anything, even if he does not report him. He will end his life to protect himself. The stabbed inmate is in critical condition. If he dies, they could charge him with being an accomplice to a homicide. Despite this, Wade keeps telling them that he knows nothing. As punishment for his decision, they lock him in the security unit where the most ruthless criminals are held. They are locked up 23 hours a day and are not allowed to receive visits during the first 3 months. After almost 4 months, our protagonist is taken out to the fighting yard. Not long after, a fight breaks out between two prisoners. While they fight, Jackson and company are making bets among themselves after the fight. Jackson shoots the prisoners with rubber bullets for losing the bet. One of the inmates gets angry and tells the lieutenant that he is a coward. The fight was already over. He is nobody without his weapons. The lieutenant does not like his words and takes him to a room to give him a beating. The next morning, Laura visits her husband in prison again. She tells him that she has no money. The mortgage is overdue. She has been looking for some work, but they do not pay her enough to support her son. Her mother takes care of him. Wade tells her to use the loan they gave him for the business. He knows she has many expenses. For the moment, it will serve for something. A couple of weeks later, the inmate John is finally transferred to our protagonist's prison and becomes his cellmate. The lieutenant shows him a picture of his family. He found it among his belongings. If he dares to do something stupid, he will show him what vengeance is. He says this because his family was killed by 2 psychopaths. When he identified the murderers, he took revenge on his own. He ended the lives of 17 people. When the guards leave, John intimidates our protagonist and sets several conditions to keep the peace. The next morning, they are both taken to the fighting yard. The gang members do not dare mess with him. He seems to know the leaders of the gang. At that moment, Derek appears with his cellmate. Danny told him that Wade could be trusted for not ratting him out. They stab the inmate over a flour debt. If he agrees to their deals, they will help him with whatever he needs. Back in the cell, John sees him looking at a picture of his family. He asks him to show it to him and asks about the little one. The photo makes him remember his own family. Wade asks him how he manages to survive on his own, to which his cellmate replies that perception is reality. He chooses to create his own. Others choose to accept it. The guy he talked to in the yard is the leader of the Southerners. Wade asks him how he tells the gangs apart, to which John replies that he will teach him the politics of prison. But when they go out to the yard, he must not approach him. Prison is not about street gangs, it is about races. The Hispanics are divided into Southerners and Northerners who are always at war. The blacks have a mix of gangs that forget their disputes and join with the Asians. The skinheads and tough guys are from the Aryan Brotherhood. The smaller gangs will try to recruit him. They will make him sell flour and take out whoever they do not like. If he refuses to obey, they will end his life. When going out to the yard, Derek asks him to take out the guy with the afro hair. When he realizes that Wade was looking at him, the inmate attacks him from behind. Our protagonist manages to overpower him. After beating him up, the lieutenant asks the guard to shoot the gang member in the leg. Not long ago, he attacked an officer in the main sector. Since the guard refuses to shoot him with a firearm, the lieutenant does it himself. Then he tells the officer that if he shows weakness, they will take advantage without hesitation. Back in the cell, Wade asks his cellmate if he knows why they shot with the rifle. John answers that once you leave the courtroom, the rules of society no longer apply. They're forced to follow the rules of the police and the gangs. Some time later, the warden shows up due to the multiple fights in the prison under Jackson's command. The lieutenant tells him he tries to reduce the disputes between inmates. From now on, he will take more measures. Meanwhile, we see Wade receiving a visit from Laura, accompanied by Michael. She tells him that she no longer has any money from the loan. Her temporary job does not even cover the fixed expenses. Wade tells her that she can sell the house and his truck. She and Michael are what matters now. When he gets out, they will recover what they sold. In the following scenes, we see our protagonist fighting with different prisoners. One day, when Derek asked him to fight one of the inmates, he refused, telling him to do it himself. Since he arrived at the prison, he has never seen him fight. Enraged by his comment, Derek and his team beat him up. The guards try to stop them, but since they do not have an angle, they activate the alarm and throw tear gas. When they see that they are about to kill him, John interferes and saves his cellmate's life. After receiving medical attention, John tells him that now they are the target of the gang. They will have to be careful. When they are taken out to the yard again, Derek along with his boss wait for him at the entrance. Derek tells him that he betrayed them despite everything they did for him. Danny tells him to shut his mouth. He gets close and tells him that he saw him pass the weapon right after his own partners slash his face and beat him up. The guards stop the fight. Collins tells his companions that he saw one of the inmates throw the weapon into the bathroom. Danny tells our protagonist that no one will hurt him If he wants to be in his gang, he will have to look for him later or else he will be alone. Back in the cell, Wade asks his cellmate for advice if he should accept the offer, to which John replies that now he is a piece of meat surrounded by sharks. Danny is a gangster who has a lot of influence in the prison. He has no choice but to join his gang. That afternoon, the lieutenant and the sergeant attend their children's game. Robert takes the opportunity to tell him that they should ease up with the inmates. If the warden finds out about the abuses they do to the prisoners, they will end up being fired. They have to follow correctional policy for at least a few months. For Jackson, it is just bureaucratic garbage that does not work. With the bets, each of them has earned $68,000 extra on top of their salary. Everything will be fine. They do not have to change anything. That night, our protagonist has a nightmare about what happened with the intruder. When he wakes up, he tells his cellmate that he cannot forget the face of the man whose life he took. He regrets chasing him. For his cellmate, he did what he had to do. He was only protecting his family. That is what matters. He then proceeds to tell him about the day his family was killed. When he came home after work, he saw his wife and daughter lying on the floor covered in blood. His daughter had her legs broken and her hip dislocated. The killers had abused her. She was only 7 years old. He made their killers suffer almost the same as he did. He ended the lives of all the members of their families. Their bloodline was completely erased. He wanted to be sentenced to death to be with them. When talking with Laura, she tells him that her son has been having nightmares since the last time they visited. She managed to sell the house for $380,000. Wade tells her they spent much more than that to buy it, a comment that makes his wife angry. She has a crappy job, hardly any time to see Michael, and has to put up with her mother's nonsense. Everyone looks at her with pity. After finishing the conversation on bad terms, Wade gets into a fight in the yard. Since our protagonist refuses to fight, the lieutenant shoots him with rubber bullets until he is unconscious. Later, we see Derek talking to Jackson. He will testify everything he knows if they give him protection for the rest of his sentence. A couple of hours later, Jackson appears in the infirmary to punish him. He tells him he is a witness to accuse Danny of first-degree murder. He will also make him an accomplice for not having cooperated at the time. Some time later, we see the prisoners receiving their sentences. Danny is sentenced to life in prison. Our protagonist receives 6 years in addition to his original sentence. When he returns home, Laura's mother tells him to forget about Wade. She is already a single mother at 33. By the time her husband gets out, she will be 40. No one can guarantee that he won't get into trouble. She is the perfect example. Her partner abandoned her when she was 26. She does not want him to go through the same thing. The next day, our protagonist receives a letter from his wife saying she cannot continue with this. In the next scene, we see Wade unleashing his fury on the prisoners he faces. His cellmate tried to advise him not to release his rage recklessly, but Wade no longer cares. He has no reason to survive. Later, John receives a visit from the friend whose life he saved. John tells him he owes no favors and does not want him wasting his life coming to prison. Meanwhile, the lieutenant receives bad news. His son had an accident while playing with friends. He ran into the street chasing the ball and was hit by a car. The driver was drunk, apparently. It is the 3rd time he has had an accident while intoxicated. Jackson decides to talk to the driver to threaten him. When he is sent to jail, rumors will spread that he is so the gang members can assault him until he dies bleeding. He got his license and address from the incident report. While having fun with the prisoners, he plans to pass by his house to run over his children. He just found his worst enemy. Before getting into his vehicle, Jackson breaks down crying, wondering why this had to happen to his son. While moving, Michael asks why they do not keep his father's clothes. She explains that Wade will no longer live with them. Sometimes people start a new life. All they can do is say goodbye. To distract him, she asks him to color, but the little boy grabs his father's clothes to try to pack them. Because of this, Laura visits him again to apologize. She and her son cannot forget him. They miss him too much. Wade tells her that without them, he cannot continue living. They are the best thing he has in his life. Laura tells him she will wait as long as necessary. She only asks that he does not become another person when he leaves prison. With a smile on his face, our protagonist returns to his cell. He tells his cellmate about the conversation and says that Jackson stole 7 years of his life with his family. John tells him that they could reduce his sentence if he exposes the guard's abuses. He must involve the right people. When the lieutenant returns to work, one of his colleagues informs him that Porter was asking for him. He asks what Porter wanted. Wade tells him that Porter wants to give him a show because of the Cell 19 gang member. He was sentenced to prison and wants revenge. Jackson tells him he is fed up with all of them. If he wants revenge, he can do it, but this time it will be to the death. Only one will come out alive. If he does not, Jackson will be the one to end their lives. He will eliminate them one by one. Later, we see Laura at Gordon's house. According to John, Gordon will help them expose the lieutenant's abuse toward the prisoners. When the deathmatch between the prisoners finally begins, Viper dominates our protagonist with little difficulty. Meanwhile, Laura and Gordon head to the prison with an investigator to recover the camera recordings. Apparently, Jackson cleans the footage after any fight or abuse he commits against his victims. Back in the fight, we see John pulling his secret weapon from his glasses. After taking a few hits, Wade manages to turn the fight around to the point of leaving Viper unconscious. He decides to leave him alive. The lieutenant shoots him as a warning. Despite this, our protagonist refuses to kill him. At that moment, John steps forward. All the prisoners, including Danny, join the cause. Jackson is about to shoot them all, but the general stops him. Jackson orders them back to their cells. One of the guards stops recording and takes the tape. In the next shot, we see Collins deep in thought. Once the cameras are turned off, they are asked to return to the yard. Jackson appears with a knife. The sergeant steps aside, saying he will not be part of this. In his report, he will claim he was in the infirmary. Since Collins has always disagreed with the lieutenant's abuses, he decides to turn on the camera secretly. Jackson tells them their lives do not matter. He recorded them leaving the yard. He will report that John went crazy and stabbed him with a knife. He tried to stop them but attacked the guards, so they had to shoot him with a rifle. Just as Jackson is about to kill him, John pulls out his gun and slits his throat. The guard shoots. Collins activates the alarm so that the guards go to the yard. Before dying, John tells his cellmate that he will finally be with his family. At that moment, the investigator, along with Laura and Gordon, arrives at the prison. By reviewing the camera footage, they manage to take the case to court and reduce his sentence. Now he will be able to get out in less than 3 months. After serving his time, Wade finally reunites with his family. In the final scene, we see Derek being taken to cell 13, the cell where his partner Danny is.